Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Duels. This week we're going to take a look at the Drain Control deck, or as I like to call it, a Death by a Thousand Cuts. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, the basic strategy of this deck is a Life Drain deck. Key piece is Retreat to Hagra over here. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one of these. It's likely going to be that we choose Opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Sometimes you can use the top one as a combat trick to kill one of their big creatures. Some people are kind of silly and don't realise that. Where the deck pretty much survives though is by running removal left, right and centre. So we'll start at the very beginning. Gideon's Reproach, fantastic early game card. Deals 4 damage to any target attacking or blocking creature. They're always going to be attacking because we have virtually no creatures whatsoever for them to ever question not attacking into us. We do occasionally have some 1/1 tokens, but they're no threat as far as they're concerned, so Gideon's Reproach often gets a lot of use. If they're afraid to attack with their creatures, then we do have Grasp of Darkness. Does the same thing essentially, except for I can do it without them having to attack or block. Do it on their end step, that kind of deal. Declaration Stone, fantastic creature removal. Exile target creature and all other creatures its controller controls with the same name as that creature. That player investigates for each non-token creature exiled this way. If they are running tokens, this is the best card to remove them because it hits every single token with the same name. So core ally tokens, for example, get entirely wiped out by this card and they don't get the investigate off it. But for the most part, it's to get rid of really pesky planeswalkers, like creature planeswalkers that is, your Jaces and your Nissas, or even an Ulamog for 2 mana. Great removal card, wouldn't go wrong with it. Drana's Emissary, the only creature in this deck. I am going to be cutting this in the next build. Replacements being Anguished Unmaking, right here. But it's a good life drainer, it blocks quite nicely. Flying, 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it's pretty much the drain card. It's a Retreat to Hagra without the landfall triggers in a nutshell. Moving on, we have Read the Bones. No control deck is complete without card advantage. So we use the Read the Bones to gain that set advantage. The 2 life isn't much of a problem because we will be draining them for life. Sometimes though, it's a little bit of an issue when you're down quite low, because this deck seems to run most optimally at around 5 or 6 life. So you get a little bit on edge when you start using this one, but scry 2 and draw 2 cards is absolutely fantastic. Allows you to get pretty much the cards you want to get. It's either dig deep or guess and hope to get into what you need. We also have a Retreat to Emeria. This is our alternate win con. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Put a 1/1 core ally creature token onto the battlefield. That's probably what we're going to use it most of all for. It's usually for blockers to stop us from dying, but if we've got plenty of 1/1s down and shambling vents and stuff like that, we might want to use creatures control get +1/+1 and aggro them out. There are a fair few games when I'm attacking for 10 just off the ally tokens that I've made and a couple of evolving wilds and stuff like that. Isolation Zone, only a 2 of. We have plenty of removal, so this one is enchantment removal, mostly there for tutelage, so you might want to consider going higher in isolation zones just off that fact. If you really don't like being milled out, then this is the card for you. So when it enters the battlefield, exile target creature or enchantment an opponent controls until Isolation Zone leaves the battlefield. It's a great card because it also hits creatures as well, so if they're not running mill, it's not a dead card. So Solemn Offering, for example, this I feel personally it's just a strict upgrade. Moving on, we've got Suppression Bonds, 3 of. This is your premium Planeswalker removal. Enchant non-land permanent. Enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So your pluses and your minuses on your planeswalkers are nullified once this is attached to them. That's mainly what it's in here for, and currently in this meta there's a lot of Super Friends going around, which is why it's a 3 of. So, you know, you want to get rid of the planeswalkers, and there aren't many ways to do it, and Suppression Bonds is the best. Languish, so we play a slow game, so by turn 4 hopefully we give them all -4/-4 and blow up their entire board. Sometimes that can just mean the win for us, because they've been going for the past 4 turns, playing creature after creature after creature. If it's an aggro deck specifically, they've pretty much emptied their hand by turn 4, so you can blow it the crap out. So Languish, it's an auto-include for most black decks I've found. Oblivion Strike, perfect removal, exile target creature. Its only issue is its sorcery speed, but this can be used to get rid of Ulamogs, Kozileks, that kind of thing. All the big creatures, and it also can be used for any creature that might just be in your way, and they're not coming back because they get exiled. So, Gideon, ally of Zendikar, he is mostly in here for defense, but sometimes you can aggro them out by plussing 1 and making him a 5/5. 0 to get your 2/2 white allies. If you can go wide on an opponent and create lots of blockers with the 0, that's perfect. He's -4 ultimate ability. I rarely use this unless I've been +1ing for quite some time. But you get an emblem with creatures you control get +1/+1. It's kind of useful. With a retreat to Emeria in play, you'd have 2/2 tokens then. So it's good for that, I suppose, but we don't tend to run many creatures, so this tends to be quite irrelevant most of the time. Except for the 2/2s that Gideon's making, there aren't many creatures in this deck. Planar Outburst, same as Languish, it's just premium removal. Destroy all non-land creatures. You can awaken it, which happens quite a lot with this deck. 5 mana to get rid of everything on the board. Same again with aggro decks. By about turn 5, the hand's empty. You blow up the board, they're done. They don't come back from it, and you just slowly drain them to death with it. With the Awaken costs, if you're at 8, then you can get a 4/4 land out of it and start swinging with that. That can end the game sometimes if you just need to push through that final bit of damage. But for the most part, you just end up using it for its 5th. Obnixilis, perfect for card advantage. Hands down. +1, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So we do get a lot of life drain, so sometimes this 1 life could be negligible, become quite irrelevant. Sometimes it's not so much though, if you're like teetering around 2 or 3 life, which this deck, some reason, I don't really know why, runs perfectly around that point. Don't know why, but most opponents when they're beating you think that they're going to win the next turn, and they never do, because you end up gaining more life and then just start drawing out of it. This deck wins when your opponents run out of cards and you only have removal in your hand. That tends to be when you win this deck. So Obnixilis to gain you more cards in your hand is perfect to gain that card advantage. Perfect to just counteract anything they're doing. Destroy target creature if you ever need to. Sometimes you just want to get rid of Obnixilis. His ultimate has come into play quite often, I've found. If you're drawing for the card advantage and just removing, then you're just destroying creature after creature after creature, and they're not getting Obnixilis' loyalty down. Which means by about 8 or 9 loyalty, you probably want to get rid of the emblem, which then draws you cards, or whenever you draw cards, sorry, or your opponent, they lose 2 life, so you start the drain that way. Sadly, you don't gain the life off of it. But that's the deck in a nutshell. There are a few cards that I'd love to include, but I don't have a complete list of them. There are, I think I have a few of them. Let me see if I can find a few. Here we go. Angelic Purge. I only have one of at the moment because I haven't unlocked all the Shadows of Arena's Dread cards. I'm about 60% the way through, but even as a common, these haven't turned up, which is very annoying. So there's an additional cost to cast an Angelic Purge, sacrifice a permanent, it's not a problem for us. Exile target artifact, creature or enchantment. Premium removal. I'm not sure what I'd take it out for. I know for a fact that if you want to cut anything, it's the Drana's Emissaries. They are the perfect choice to cut. Other cards to add include Anguish Unmaking. I haven't unlocked any of them, so I can't show you, but I will pop it on screen right now. There you go. So that's removal for anything. Its downside is that you lose life, but it's negligible. And then there's Sorum Grim Nemesis. Yet again, I haven't unlocked him, so here he is right here. Gives you card advantage. If you get him to his ultimate, that'll win you the game. You know, he can burn out your opponent as well. That's life draining itself, so he's perfect. And I did think about doing Tamio's Journal, Not sure about Tamio's Journal, to be perfectly honest. It will mean that we get to tutor for stuff like Retreat to Hagra's and stuff like that, and get our Planeswalkers out sooner, maybe. I'm not sure. It does give us card advantage with the Investigate triggers as well. So it's a maybe in this deck. Let's just look at the land base. I think the rest of the deck speaks for itself. So we've gone 8 and 8. We have pretty much an even split of permanents, black and white here. The only issue is occasionally you don't hit your Grasp of Darkness double blacks. It doesn't happen as often as you'd expect, but you know, we have ways of getting around needing certain cards. So we have 4 Evolving Wilds. It's a double landfall trigger for our retreats. So we can give our 1/1s +2/+2, or we can drain for 2, that kind of thing. Tend to leave these out as combat tricks because Retreat to Hagra has a Death Touch trigger on it. So you can give one of your 1/1 tokens Death Touch. So if he's swinging in with a big creature that you just can't remove, like a Gaia's Revenge or something like that, sack the Evolving Wilds, give a 1/1 Death Touch, and you've just destroyed a big creature with a pathetic token. Let's see. Shambling Vents, perfect to get you out the jams. You tend to gain control when you're on really low life, so to get a Shambling Vent back out and start swinging in with it is perfect. When you get your Emeria triggers as well, then you make this 2/3 much bigger and start gaining life back. And it just gets out of control at certain points. And then just 2 Isolated Chapels. I think it's an auto-include for most black-white decks. You know, there are a few land changes I would make. I would put some Drownyard Temples in there. If you're doing Angelic Purge, for example, you'll be sacrificing permanents. So if you could sacrifice a Drownyard Temple, then you could pay the 3 mana to gain it back and put it on the battlefield whenever you'd like, and then you can Angelic Purge again. So you won't be getting the additional cost downside, essentially. You will be paying 3 extra, but you can do it whenever you like, really. Alright guys, that's going to be it for the deck tech. If you like what you see, stick around for the end card to see the matches. Also, leave a like if you like the look of the deck. If you love the look of the deck, then leave a subscription, comment down below and all that jazz. I'll see you in the matches that should be following very shortly. Toodaloo.